coffee fuel.
I thought that was going to be... I knew we had a coffee field intro, but apparently it was just a drop. And
Are we live? I hope we're live.
We are live. I thought that was going to be...
so anticlimactic.
I thought that was going to be better than
Coffee field.
Hold on. Maybe this works better. Oh, well, that's not any longer. You know what? Fuck it. Welcome to a very special, although I'm not sure what makes it special other than it's on a Saturday morning, beer breakfast episode with your folks. You hear it. Beerfield Fantasy. Get the fantasy out. Beerfield Football. Beerfield Podcast. I'm at Beerfield Hop with 2 P's. Chris Hopper.
You are.
He's at Beerfield Thury with 2 E's. We're at Beerfield. That's all on Twitter. Beerfield Podcast on YouTube. Beerfield Podcast, everywhere you get Sports Booze BS, everywhere you get your podcast from. And we are here to dissect a clusterfuck.
That is that's a bit of an understatement too. Is how much of a clusterfuck this actually is.
Yeah. So,
Oof.
If you've been living under a rock, COVID is all over the place. NFL games are getting moved around, rescheduled. We're going to help dissect that. How do you navigate that? How do you handle that? We're going to get into a little bourbon philosophy with Hopper after yesterday. And then we've got a pretty, I trust me, I have not forgotten. And then we got we're going to do what we can to try to break down this week's games as best as we can with as many game time decisions as they're figured to be. Programming note, so this is going to serve as both Sunday live stream for lineup Q&A and everything, as well as our podcast for the week. Schedules were very, very compressed in our real life lives, so as opposed to this simulation we do every couple of weeks, or every week.
This is the Matrix.
Yeah, this is the Matrix right here. This is the simulation you have to look forward to. It's just us.
Yeah, it's just us.
So the other thing that is going on today, and my most important thing,
What's fueling Beerfield?
Dan, what are you drinking and why?
and why? I am drinking a caramel latte, not latte, espresso. I don't know. Shit from the store that we make in the Kier cup. A cappuccino. Thanks, wife. And then I'm also drinking a Busch Light because Zach Ertz realizes his floor more than Dalton Schultz did. That's pretty much it.
Well,
Zach Ertz realized his floor potential more than Dalton Schultz. Is it because DeAndre Hopkins got hurt? Is it because the Cardinals and Rams game turned into a shootout? I don't know.
Is it because
either way,
I was right about...
No, it's not because you were right. It's because of game scenario.
Okay.
It's because they realized their scoring potential more, and Mama don't raise no bitch. So
so I was not right.
I was right in my analysis, and we all know it's process. It's process over results. But
hold on, I gotta see if that's actually true or not. I gotta look for myself, right?
Let's see. Process over results?
No, not process over results. If the process was right, because my argument was that Michael Gallup coming back would impact Dalton Schultz's target volume, with everybody being on the field, and it did. Michael Gallup had.
Well, I didn't disagree with you there. That was never. That was never.
That was always my
disagreement.
argument against Dalton Schultz was that with everybody on the field, how because it hadn't happened all year since week 1. What was that going to do to his target volume? And at least last week, we'll see how it operates over time. But at least last week, it was basically halved. His floor was.
I'll
halved.
take the fact that Dallas was also up multiple touchdowns, and then.
Sure.
But it's going to change the game plan. The
and
Cardinals
that was my other argument for Ertz was game script.
Well, sure. Like I said, they're the same player in the same scenario. One went in a better direction than the other. One also saw their star wide receiver re-aggravate his hamstring and then go out.
But
I digress.
Arizona still uses the tight end the same way they always use the tight end.
At least they got Aaron Jones right.
I am drinking something from Humble Forager. Lindsay liked it, so I left the rest of the can upstairs, so I don't actually remember what I'm drinking. I'm trying to find out.
Was it one of the Coastal Sunshines?
Yeah, it is a Coastal Sunshine. You're right. So
it's like I used to work for a liquor store, and I know all these things.
Oh yeah, it's definitely one of the Coastal Sunshines.
Depends if it's actually because they do. This is a sunrise one, or a sunrise one, which is a breakfast sour.
Okay, this is a sunrise one. Then this is Coastal Sunrise.
Okay,
yeah. So this is going to be Coastal Sunrise, one of their variants on this. This is the variant that is based on a painkiller. So it's orange pineapple juice dusted with coconut and a little bit of nutmeg. So it's breakfast with beer field. We got a breakfast beer.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And we also have. Coffee. So,
at some point throughout the show, I may have to make another cup, but we'll see.
What coffee am I drinking? Hold on.
Maybe I'll text her and see if she can make me a cup.
What coffee am I drinking? That's important too. People want to know what I drink coffee-wise, right?
They do. I'll use the same cup and I'll just pour. It's a cappuccino. I'll just do black coffee.
Actually, I don't remember what the hell it's called. I'm not going to find it. We're not going to make the people wait on that. All right. First things first, I want to talk a little bourbon philosophy. This came up yesterday, and then I want to get into football. So Yesterday was a very long day for me. Well, no, I was on the road. I had to go to Kentucky to pick up a New Riff barrel and 34 cases of whiskey. And so that day started at 6 a.m. and ended at about 2 a.m. the next day.
Thanks.
With driving and stops and everything like that. So anyway, I was at the Rack House over in St. Peter's, Cottleville, technically, which they're a good partner of ours, great bourbon selection, good food. John takes care of us really well. If you're ever in the St. Louis area, which actually this just happened with somebody this week, highly recommended that you stop in there. Their bar manager had posted a new flight that they had. I'm curious to get your takes on this.
Okay.
It is Lot B, Pappy 15, Thomas H. Handy, and I don't remember what the other one was. The 4-pour flight, though. I remember that. Let me go find it real quick.
Now it seemed very rare, too. So
yeah, and let me find the finer details here because I know it's on our page. Because she posted it there and got ripped a little bit. And I'm curious as to... I know why it happened, but I'm real curious as to the what. What went down there, basically.
Yeah.
I also hate this shit sometimes. It's actually really important what that other pour was, too, because that's going to be a huge determination on this. Good God. It was Lot B, Pappy 15. There's no way we deleted this.
Uh-oh.
Maybe she did? No.
Uh-oh.
Maybe she did. It was another rare release bourbon. I'll see if I can remember what it was. I don't remember what the other one was. But Lot B, Pappy 15, Thomas H. Handy. So my question, I guess, is the price on that was $255. And the other bourbon was equally as rare. I don't remember, like I said, I don't remember what it is offhand, but it was something that was equally as hard to get, basically. And I'll continue to try to figure it out. But it was $255 for the flight. So I believe they're half-ounce pours. And it got ripped pretty hard because of the pricing on it, which to me isn't a rack house problem. That is a just full market problem. Because as I went through St. Louis and broke down, like, this is what a half-ounce pour of each of these things would cost, and then, I don't know, mathed it together, you actually came out ahead by like $30-$40. So, interested in your take. Is that too high for a flight, given what's in it? And again, I'll find the fourth one. Or is it just, should you even be doing flights like that for sticker shock?
I mean,
or not for sticker shock, because of sticker shock, because of what the consumer may think about that, especially with these allocated Buffalo Trace products, which a lot of times go for over $100, $80 to $150 to $165 for a full 1 ounce pour at a bar.
I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, with the market, with the secondary market price, which is clearly playing an effect on the cost of the flight. I don't see the benefit. I mean, I see the benefit of having, these places doing flights of rare bourbon, especially at this time of year, where people are spending a little more money, even though probably right now they're not. Most people bought their gifts already. This, to me, would be a post-Christmas type of thing. So it makes sense from that standpoint. You want to allow, people to try, 4 things they probably can't find in the wild, or if they do find it, it's going to be insanely high in cost because of the secondary market, or they're at a store that likes to also manipulate the secondary, cost of these items. I get why people are pissed, because it's high. Like, if you don't know what those costs, and you see that just from the get-go, or what the actual store cost is instead of the secondary cost, I can see where people can get upset. But it's their business. They're going to charge what they want to charge. And I think more people are pissed off because they probably can't afford it. Like, they can't afford the actual bottles that are attached to it. I just wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't get pissed. I understand completely. And you don't got to buy it. And you can suck it up to it. The fact that it's being allowed it's pretty special in terms of those 4 items. But you're right. I think it speaks to the problem of the secondary market of bourbon, and just of all things. Beer is a part of this too. So it speaks to the greater issue at hand, and I think people are just being pissed to be pissed.
Yeah, I think that they are too.
Did you find out what the 4th one was, or no?
No, I can't. Facebook's not agreeing with me right now on trying to actually find things at the moment. I'll try one other thing here. So I'm with you though. I think people are pissed to be pissed because they don't know. And you see that sticker, you get sticker shock, and this is just another store or not another store, but another bar that's price gouging this. And really, that's not. You got to look at, when you're evaluating a flight, you got to look at, what is that individual pour going to cost me if I were to go out and get it? What area am I in, right? Because that in Springfield is not going to cost me what it does in West County, St. Louis. Yep. So you got to evaluate where you are, what it is you're drinking, do the math on that, and decide, is this a value? In this case, it's a value, but I kind of agree. I get why people are upset, but I don't think they're upset with them for necessarily doing this. I think they're more upset with just where the market on that consistently sits. That's why people are upset with secondary. That's why people are upset with these owners that are price gouging and, upset with the prices of those poor. If you walk into any bar, pretty much in general, it's very rare to find something like that and think, oh, this is actually a pretty okay price.
Yeah, like you're not gonna like you shouldn't walk in and see four pretty ultra rare, at least right now ultra rare bourbons to find, and it costs like $100.
No,
I think that's what people want it to be, because probably based off of actual store costs and not secondary costs. That's probably fair. I know that Pappy 15 doesn't cost far more than $100 for a bottle at store level, not secondary level. So you're still getting a discount, but that's why I think people are just disconnected on the actual cost of bourbon, even beyond secondary, even just at store level, that just a half ounce of pour of those is going to cost over $100 at most places, or the bottle itself is it's I think people are just not fully aware of just how much bourbon costs even before it hits secondary market. That's where maybe that's an issue too. But again, they don't make a lot of these and they're very sought after, and that's what people want.
Yeah. Oh, and here's the other thing, right? From a percentage perspective, if I go in and buy a pour of, we'll call it, I don't know, something that you can find regular. Let's just call it regular ass Buffalo Trace, right?
Yeah.
$8 pour. Let's say they only pour 1 ounce shots out of that bottle. You have, I'm doing math, sorry. Yeah, basically 1,000% markup on that bottle by the time that they get through that. If they only do 1 ounce pours at $8 a pour, 25 pours per bottle. Somebody can check my math on that. I'm not a big math guy. But that comes out to like $200 on a $28 bottle, essentially. Maybe $30 bottle.
Yeah.
It retails for $30. Wholesale on it's probably 20, 25. And bottle of Pappy at $120, you sell that at $50 pours, right? You're still at the same markup as a Buffalo Trace is. So I get it. But and you're also not guaranteed to get that bottle, so supply and demand, right? I mean, you may get one this year and not see it for 3 years. So
I mean, so speaking of that, for those of you that may not know, I used to work for a major liquor chain before I went and work for the Still now. And when you're in the actual environment, the actual employee environment of it, you see a lot of rare stuff all the time. Obviously, we can't get all of it, but we see a lot of it, especially the one that I worked for, Benny's, which is the major one in Illinois. We see everything pretty much, come through. And it's not until you actually leave the business and start to talk to the people outside of it that you just see how rare stuff is. I watched a guy lose his shit over having the chance to buy a Buffalo Trace, regular Buffalo Trace, not handpicked, not just regular old Buffalo Trace. And I saw that shit almost every day, it felt like. So again, it speaks to just where, people's mindset is at that point when it comes to this stuff. And also just speaks to how hard it is, to find it. It's because I think Buffalo Trace makes less of it now, if I'm not mistaken. So it already
regular Buffalo Trace.
Yeah.
The problem is supply and demand. And what happened is you had this bourbon boom take off over the last. You're seeing Benchmark become more prominent at the moment. It's because you had this bourbon boom over the last however many years. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
And the problem, nobody forecasted it right, that it was going to blow up the way that it blew up. So you got these distilleries that are rapidly trying to expand, but for something like Buffalo Trace, where I think the product in that is a minimum 6 year, they started to get younger and younger, and eventually couldn't meet the quality standards because you're getting into these younger and younger batches of barrels of bourbon, and that's going to be a couple year lag before you catch up to that, right? Because I mean, we're still probably 2 to 3 years away from the supply catching up to demand, because there's no way to just rush production on bourbon up, because for it to be anywhere close to, like, you can blend some younger batches, if you will, but I mean the majority of that bourbon's going to have to be 4 to 6 years for it to have, you know, a pleasant quality controlled flavor like what they're looking for. And a lot of the small batches are like this. But Buffalo Trace being the one that blew up the most, that's it's going to be lagging behind, and that's why you see that. That's why you see people lose their shit over finding Buffalo Trace. See it all the time around here. You can find it. It's not a unicorn, but it's also not guaranteed you walk into some place and they're just going to have it either.
Yep. Exactly.
Anyway, that was a little diatribe there. I'm going to keep looking for that. I just threw my phone back on Wi-Fi. I don't know what the hell its deal was, so I'll keep looking to see if I can find that.
Sure.
That fourth flight. Let's move on. So you're a commissioner.
I am.
Not a great one, but you're a commissioner.
You know, not one of the many things that I'm elite at.
You're all right.
I do what I can.
He's my commissioner in a couple weeks. So he got games getting moved. Games were almost postponed. And if this thing keeps getting worse, even though they did just relax the health and safety protocols some, or didn't really relax them, they added another level to them, which basically is they're looking for basically a contagion level. Are you still contagious? How contagious are you? And then, you know, if that is under a threshold, you can get away with, you know, and you're vaccinated, you can get away with testing positive. Or if that is, you know, you can get away with that, passing that, and one test instead of two. They made it easier for players to return to play, essentially.
Yeah.
While also adding in some things that don't necessarily compromise the health and safety. But, as a commissioner, what are we watching here for? What happens in playoff time if games do start to get outright canceled, postponed? The NFL says, we're not having this week, or this doesn't have playoff implications. We're not having it in general. I mean, the Rams are one of them that was almost postponed.
We never even saw this last year. It was far better contained, and yes, different strains of COVID is more infectious, and that's what we're seeing now with this newest variant coming through. So it's you can pose the question of foregoing the playoffs and giving people's money back. I think that's a common response. Or you can split the playoff. You could, because we're in the playoffs now. You can split the pool amongst the playoff teams. That's one thing I've been dabbling with. If things get to that level, is splitting the playoff. It's splitting the prize pool amongst the playoff teams. It's a fair no, but.
Is there? Well, I mean, there's a lot of different angles.
I don't think there isn't a real proper way. I don't know if a game gets canceled, that could shift everything.
Right. If a game gets canceled, I don't know what you do. And I've run through some scenarios in my mind of everything from, apply the impacted player's average points per game to, because that's kind of how Scott Fish dealt with Week 14, is they applied your team's average. So do you do it? I looked at that and I'm like, well, that doesn't really, if I'm missing a guy, that doesn't make up the 9-point difference in season-long average between me and this next team, right? Yeah. So do you apply, if a Cooper Kupp misses his season average and say, this is what it is, this is what we're going with? Do you change your payouts, like you said, to pay out either all playoff teams, or how do you shift that? Do you shift that to best record in the regular season and points in the regular season and call that good. And I think ultimately as a commissioner, the only thing that you can do here is you pose it to the league, let people brainstorm it out, and get a majority consensus on what your league wants to do and what is going to see as fair. Because I can tell you that if we went with a payout all playoff teams, right, like I'm not going to love that because I'm a team that came in first in record and, second in points, 30 from what could be, 30 from first in points. And it's like, okay, well, I clearly had a better season than the number 6 guy, right?
Yeah.
So why is this an even pay? I clearly had a better season than, the only argument could be made for maybe Cap and Sean, right? So it's going to be, why should the guy that Nick barely snuck in, but Nick had top points too. So
I was going to say that's probably not.
So Nick's probably not the best option.
My league
there.
Isn't the best example of it,
right?
But scoring
okay, so
team is the 6th seed.
Ronnie's league.
Okay,
that one's probably a better example where you're 5 and your 6th seed slated in at barely 500 records, right? And your 4 seed is barely a 500 record. You're all in that 8 and 6 to 6 and 7 range, right? But then you've got a guy that 2 guys that went 9 and 3 and 10 and 2. Clearly better seasons. So I hope we don't have to handle this, but you want to kind of reward the people that clearly had better seasons, in my opinion. And last year, I think what we had landed on, or what a lot of leagues landed on, is just the bylaw for the year that, if games get canceled, we just axe the season. If we axe it in playoffs, we go with regular season results. If we axe it in the regular season, everybody just gets their buy-in back. But that was if the season was canceled.
And that always depended on when in the season it got canceled.
Right.
The fact that most, I want to say probably not maybe 100%, but close to 100% of leagues didn't have that conversation this year because most of them thought that we
weren't going to be here.
We weren't going to have to worry about something like this happening again.
Right.
And a lot of those conversations, and the fact that we're in the playoffs, there were no conversations in the regular season. So that's where you can't just take regular season stuff. There is.
Well, you could if your league agreed to it.
Yeah. You can. If I'm a commissioner, which I am. So it's you can post various options. The number one option has to be you gave everyone your money back and you axe this season. You let it play out, whatever, and you get everyone's money back. Does it suck? Is it fair? Is it fair to most? Yes. Does it suck to the teams that made the playoffs and actually had a run at it? Yes, it does. It's a bad thing. You can go the results of you give the playoff teams their money.
Yeah.
You split the pool, give them, because we're in the playoffs now, and those teams,
anything can happen.
Anything can happen in the playoffs. We've seen, load seeds, make it, and this is where, you can see a lot of things happen. You can give it based off of total points throughout the year. Maybe you reward the 2 highest schedules. If you play division, you do both division leaders, then you base it off of total points, or you just add the money to next year.
Yeah, and I don't like for Dynasty, you can make that argument, but at the same point in time, right? Next year is not this year.
For Dynasty, that would be next year.
We see so much
you wouldn't do that.
Year-to-year variance to where, like, again, if I'm a front-running team, I have a problem with that because I built to win this year, not next year. So, or, be competitive next year, but really you made a run at it this year, so... Yeah, now you're just out that rolling over to next year. I don't love that. I don't love because there's not a perfect answer here. Like, this is me.
There is no perfect
answer. And this is a commissioner versus team at the top of a league discussion. If I'm a team at the bottom of the league, I don't have an opinion on this because I know that I was going to lose that money anyway, right?
This is also based off of how much you paid to get in.
Right.
Buy-ins is going to play a huge factor in this.
But you're at a point where if you're eliminated or not in the playoffs, you're eliminated and not in the playoffs. And based on a regular NFL season at that point, you were not getting your money back. You lost at the point in the season we're at. So I think paying...
questions.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. This is from Malachi. Malachi, I only kept 15 years, so thank you for jumping in. He said pick 2. Myles Gaskin, Rashad Penny, AJ Dillon, Devonta Freeman.
All right. First things first. COVID check.
Yeah. Well, check to see.
Myles Gaskin is no longer on the COVID list.
I knew that. I
don't think AJ Dillon ever was. He is not.
No. Penny is not. And I think Seattle's offenses are running backfield is all over the place. And Freeman shouldn't be on it either. I think all 4 of these players are there's no risk of COVID. So
yeah, Alex. I mean,
there's always a risk, but right now there's no risk.
So Alex Collins is still on the COVID list, which plays to Penny. Yeah.
And what after Penny just did this past week,
I don't know how you don't start him.
I gotta pull up who's playing who.
Yeah, I'm doing the same. I don't know how you don't start Penny though after what he did last week. So Seattle has the Rams, who you've been able to run on all year. Like their run defense has been bad, and I have no idea why, given the defense they have, but it's been bad. The Ravens, so Freeman's got the Packers, which means that Dillon has the Ravens, and because that's how matchups work.
Yeah, that's how matchups work.
And who's the other one? Gaskin.
Miami has the New York Jets at home.
So, I look at that, and I am probably more comfortable with Gaskin.
I'll tell you who I'm not playing right now, and that's going to be Freeman amongst these 4.
Yeah. I wouldn't play Freeman, and A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones still cutting into each other's workload. Myles Gaskin should, everyone was saying, go get Duke Johnson, or because everybody in Miami was on the COVID list. Well, that's not the case anymore. So, Gaskin's got a game script positive matchup and a defense positive matchup. Penny had a blow-up game with a good matchup, so I'm leaning Gaskin and Penny in this one. Packers Ravens very much could be a grinded out type game, but I don't necessarily see the efficiency being there.
And we'll see if Lamar Jackson even plays. You throw in Taylor or Tyler Huntley. You don't. I mean, again, even with running backs, you still want to target matchups that have decent scoring potential. We do have to note that the Seattle Rams game has been pushed to Tuesday.
Which does give Alex Collins a chance to get cleared.
See Collins and Lockett come back because those are the 2 that are on the COVID list right now.
I need Lockett to come back.
Yeah, I know a lot of people. I mean, I'm playing in leagues that I'm playing against Lockett, so if he wants to just stay out, that's fine. I agree. I think it's Gaskin and Penny. I'm not picking Freeman. He's the bottom of this list for me. Dillon, it's a game that fits right for him, right? If Baltimore's without Jackson, they've struggled to score points. Green Bay's defense is playing very good. This fits a Dillon type of matchup where Ravens are also bad against the run, especially in between the tackles. So this could be easily an AJ Dillon week, but he's still splitting snaps, still splitting opportunities with Aaron Jones, and he's on the lower end of that split too. It's still Jones still out snaps, out runs, runs them, and out opportunities them. So
yeah, and the receiving
Gaskin is
and the receiving work is inconsistent. He's shown the ability to do it, but it's been relatively inconsistent.
Yeah, and that's I think when he gets the receiving work is when Jones either is banged up or is just not playing in that game. So.
Right. So hope that helps out Malachi.
Yeah. Gaskin Penny which seems to be our anonymous choice here.
Yeah.
All right, back to
what do you do with your league?
How to handle a league with as a commissioner.
And I think the best thing that you can do as a commissioner is throw options out there to your league. I think this is the general summation: is you throw options out there to your league and let them figure out how to split it. I think I could see that. At this stage, if we're having this conversation in week 6, I agree with you. Pay out everyone and call it good. We're not. We're having this conversation in week 15 where 80% of all leagues should be in their playoffs. There are some that, there won't start till next week. The good news is it doesn't look like we're going to have any games outright canceled this week. So should be rolling fine there. Look, here's the other argument, though, right? The only reason I see this as a discussion is if games get canceled. If you got players that are just riding the COVID list, even if it's a superstar, like, sorry, that can happen because of an ankle injury.
That's been a risk for That's been a risk
you
for now 2 seasons.
You should have built your team with the depth and played the waiver wire in such a way that allows you to accommodate if that were to happen. Now, you're not going to replace, if a guy like Cooper Kupp were to end up stuck on a COVID list, right? He's had a hell of a season. You are not going to replace that, but you should be prepared to pivot.
Right. Yeah. No. This isn't based off of
This
your
is based
favorite
off
players going on the COVID.
Yeah,
list.
this is based off of if games get canceled,
which I don't think we'll see.
Yeah.
That's so much money lost for the NFL.
For the players too. That's the
teams,
last thing that they want to happen.
Yeah.
But
they'll push back what makes me nervous is pushing back games into later weeks.
By the way, one other thing, the other reason to like Rashad Penny, this Rams list.
Yeah.
Linebacker Justin Lawler, linebacker Justin Miller, DB Antoine Brooks, DB Jake Gervais. It looks like special teams got hit hard, but linebacker
it depends.
Linebacker Troy Reeder, that's their starting middle linebacker. Linebacker Christian Rosenboom, linebacker Justin Hollins, couple tight ends on there, another DB. Now again, these DBs are mostly. Oh no, there's Jordan Fuller. He's at least up there. Juju Hughes is a little up there. Jalen Ramsey, obviously up there. So I mean, they're across the secondary and across the linebacking core, not in a great spot at the moment.
And we'll see what this push back to Tuesday, how many players get to come back.
I think a lot of them will.
Yeah, which is ultimately what you want from a fan. You want to see decent product out there.
Yep, it is. So, yeah, you don't adjust because players miss, but if games get canceled, then you got to figure out how your league would like to adjust. Talk alternate forms of payouts. Talk, even if it's we're still going to have the championship, but we're still going to go through the playoffs, but the prize pool for winning the playoffs is going to be smaller. We're going to go ahead and increase the regular season payouts, and we're going to go ahead and increase we're still going to crown a champion, but we're going to increase the regular season payouts. We're going to increase the division winner payouts, the top points, top record, to reward that more. We're going to, we're axing the playoffs. We're calling it a season. We're going to reward your regular season champions. We're axing the playoffs. We're calling it a season. We're going to pay out if you made the playoffs. Maybe that's not an even split. Maybe that's
you slight bump it. You give people, maybe you give
the better.
So you have 6 teams make the playoffs. Maybe you give the bottom 2 their money back, and then you split.
The bottom 2 seeds get their money back, and then the rest of it gets split amongst the top 2. And that'll depend on look at your league too, and make it based on record. Make it to where you can defend that if you're going to recommend that. But ultimately, should be a league decision. The commissioner's there for oversight, not to be a dictator, although mine's kind of a dictator in most leagues. Nick, Dan, Ronnie. But, yeah. Should be a joint choice. All right. New non-COVID related news. We're going to find what we can there. Jaguars axed head coach Urban Meyer. This was a long time coming. Came out, he kicked the kicker.
It came out that he kicked Josh Lambo, the kicker at that time. That's what led to the fire. Not on top of that was the cherry on top. That was the last pour that sent everything tumbling over.
Yeah. And he's gone. Darrell Bevell's going to take over. That is great news for James Robinson. You'll remember Darrell Bevell from the Seahawks running the ball 550 times a season. So,
hopefully his body can handle it. He's been banged up. He's about to see 30 carries now.
Yeah, he's probably about to see 30 carries. Also good for watch Visca over the back end, and that's going to be more of a dynasty thing. But Visca, to me, has some Tyler Lockett qualities, which they obviously know how to use. So keep an eye on that. And I'm not talking Tyler Lockett now, who's the slot guy, great route runner, can separate fantastically. I'm talking like year 1, year 2 Tyler Lockett, who was primarily used as a downfield threat, and then they worked him in as a more of a Doug Baldwin replacement later on in his career. But I'm talking early on Tyler Lockett.
We'll see what Chenault's role is. You know, he's
Yeah.
built like Dylan, he's built like Debo.
Yeah.
And he's being used more like Debo on a extremely inefficient
team
and not high scoring team. That's I'm not saying that's the difference. Don't get me wrong. Debo is far more talented player right now. You don't have to look too hard to find that. That's what Chenault is. He's built like a running back. That's been his calling card since he came out of college last year. And he looks like a mixture of AJ Brown and Debo Samuel.
Yeah.
And hopefully this massive change for Jacksonville. And it's not really this year. I wouldn't look at it this year. You got to run first OC. You shouldn't be a head coach anyways. We'll see what Jacksonville does in the offseason. That's the big mark. You're going to see a lot of Jacksonville takes this offseason now with Urban Meyer gone and when we find out who the new head coach is and what they'll do with the overall offense, because Bevel may still be there as the OC.
He could be. Yeah, he could be. We'll see.
Very well could be.
We'll see what happens. And, we'll see what they do with Trent Baalke. I don't know that he's gone after one season.
Yeah.
I actually don't think Baalke's gone after one season. I think he'll get 3 or 4 seasons to either make this work or run it into the ground because, you can't fix a team in 1 year, right?
Yeah.
You hope that, one of the early rumors is that Dabo comes in and you hope that doesn't happen because you hope they learn their lesson on this.
I can't see them bringing in a college.
I can't see them either after
I
getting
think this is going to be
burned there. This is
a quote-unquote safe option. Maybe they'll try to get, Eric Bieniemy from the Chiefs.
Yeah, I was thinking, Eric Bieniemy is a name that comes up. Arthur Smith is a name that had been tossed around. There's a few others that I think that you could potentially try and pluck and, have that.
We'll
be
know
a
more
solid
about
option.
that.
We'll see. We'll
when
know
we
more
come the
as
Black
we go.
Monday, and then we'll be seeing rumors we hear in the offseason.
And there will be a lot of good rumors. Bieniemy will be a hot name again.
Yeah, definitely.
As he should be, right? I mean, he absolutely should be.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Desean Walton, we'll have plenty of time to talk about him in the offseason, so I'm not going to go into those once we get kicked out there. Thielen, non-COVID, game-time decision. Taylor Heineke, COVID, but also a knee injury, game-time decision. So not going to go into these, everything COVID-related here. We'll talk about we'll give you a rundown of who's in COVID protocols as we preview each game. Saquon Barkley cleared, no injury designation for him. Kittle, no injury designation. Going through these because otherwise I'm not going to know when we get to game previews. This is more for me than you. Brevin Jordan, questionable with a hand injury. He'd actually been breaking out a little bit as a tight end option. Josh Reynolds has a thigh injury. He's questionable.
That was fun for a little bit.
Yeah. Rex Burkhead is questionable. After
as a player, yes.
After he had ruled out and apparently gotten better. He's questionable as an option, period. Freddie Swain practicing with an ankle injury, as is Dwayne Eskridge. Those are names to know if for some reason Lockett can't go.
Right.
This is going to be such a tough week. DK Metcalf's practicing. Elijah Mitchell out.
Ruled out. Yeah.
Concussion and a knee injury. So Elijah Mitchell will not play. Good news for Debo, I guess. We saw last week it's a little ugly behind that, though. Jeff Wilson is not a surefire replacement for that.
A lot of these players, a lot of the backs are also coming back from their own injuries. And Debo is just the team's best running back anyway. So
yeah. Jalen Hurts practiced in full. He's dealing with an ankle injury. Looks like he's probably going to start, especially with a couple extra days.
Good.
Hurts is questionable. Rodgers is going to play.
Joes will play.
Melvin Gordon questionable week 15 with a hand injury. Limited all week. He'll probably play if it's just a hand.
Swift is out. And Jamal Williams will still have to wait.
Yeah, Swift it was ruled out. MVS questionable. Wendell Smallwood, nope, that's COVID and not relevant. Lamar Jackson questionable. We kind of covered that a little bit. We'll get to that more in the game preview.
I believe Emmanuel Sanders, it says he's doubtful. I thought he's already been ruled out for this week.
And that helps clear out
Gabe Davis.
Shit for Gabe Davis, who's had some big weeks. Jordan Howard is back for week 15, so he was splitting with Miles Sanders before he went down.
Yes. Daniel Jones out for another week. I won't be shocked if he's. I'm surprised they just won't shut him down.
Yeah,
there's no need to keep playing, but force playing him.
Also we got Nick Chubb. Nope, that's postponed. Javonte Williams returned to practice after dealing with the leg injury. He's questionable as well.
But Damian Harris ruled out for 15.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Damian Harris ruled out. Ramondre Stevenson will draw the lion's share of the work there.
Cardinals should expect to have Chase Edmonds back.
Receiving back. That'll cut into James Conner's receiving work a little bit. But
it's also against the Lions.
Yeah.
So I still think Connor will retain a high amount of his role at least this week and such.
J.D. McKissick is questionable. Terry McLaurin questionable. Ooh, that's tough too. That game got moved, didn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's a concussion, so I guess that gives him more time to clear protocols. That's a gamble.
Yeah.
Okay. Best way to handle this as I'm going through this is let's just go ahead and jump into game previews. We'll look at COVID protocols. We will try our best to pick out replacements if certain people can't go because of COVID or really injuries from a game that is postponed due to COVID. What the outlook is if for some of these players to get back, because like Terry McLaurin just kicked that one off for me. It's like was concussed. He's not cleared yet. Would normally play tomorrow, which is really concerning. But now it's on a Tuesday where you don't know. You extra 2 days. We see players clear concussion protocol in a week all the time, but the extra 2 days is probably big for somebody like him if he's on the bridge or not fully recovered yet. So,
yeah, we'll get more into it when we get there.
We're there, by the way.
We're there right now.
Well, actually, we're almost there.
Beer review.
Oh, cool. Got the injury report breakdowns, too.
Well, there you go. Busch Light.
Busch Light. What do you got? We've done this before.
We have done this before. It's apparently per Ben Morgan from Loaded Box, his number one beer, his one-on-one of beers, because he hates everything craft. But we love him, so we let it slide. Brewed in the U.S. of A. As it says on the can. This tastes like piss water.
Right here in St. Louis, actually.
Yeah, it's actually really good water that's being used for it. But, I mean, this is your farmer's boy. Your corn everything, and your Campbell cans. This is this is their beer. It doesn't have much of a taste. It's a bit skunky. Maybe because the can's old. I don't think so though. But it's a beer. it's your typical light beer. I can't give much more review. I mean,
I want more in depth. Go more.
It's better than Miller Lite. I'm not going more in depth. I've given this already hurts enough.
I'm not continuing the show until we go. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to do that. That sounds terrible. All right.
Something more exciting.
So this would be a Coastal Sunrise from Humble Forager, I think, because I don't have the can. Yeah, this beer is really, really good for a breakfast beer. It's super juicy, as you'd expect from having orange juice and pineapple juice. The live studio audience definitely picked up more of the orange. I get more of the pineapple, but the orange is definitely there out front. Dusting of nutmeg actually helps offset the sweetness in this. You don't get a lot of nutmeg on it, but it really helps to tone out the level of sweetness you would get from orange juice and pineapple juice being added to this, post fermentation, essentially. So, overall, it's a great breakfast beer. Like, it's made for a breakfast beer, and it is a great breakfast beer. I would put it on the level of breakfast drink right there with a mimosa, which is my favorite breakfast drink.
For beer that's not actually beer. I mean,
It's beer.
Technically a beer.
Yeah. It's got a bunch of shit thrown in it, but if you can find anything if you like fruity and you can find anything from Humble Forager, just in general, I recommend picking it up. They do what they do very well. A lot of people may not be a fan of what they do, but they do what they do very well.
Oh, I mean, they're massively popular. It's the rise. I make jokes. It's the rise of the overly adjunct, mask everything about the beer rise that we've seen the last about 3 or 4 years now. Really, even started with the massive hazy rise and the loads of double and triple dry hopping everything. So it's fantastic. I've had most of the coastal series, whether it be the Sunset, Sunshine, or Sunrise. Humble Forager makes fantastic products. I just kid. I mean, we make jokes about the beers that don't taste like beer at all.
Okay. Well, I guess it's time. Let's go ahead and see if we can dissect this. By the way, Chiefs Chargers played a football game already this week.
They did.
Total blowout.
Game
Love you, Travis Kelce.
He decides.
My Scott Fishbowl team loves him right now.
Yeah, we are very happy with our Travis Kelce points we got in our Scott Fishbowl team.
Very good game from Patrick Mahomes. Huge game from Tyreek Hill. Like, it was an absolutely, if you're not Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Chiefs blow up. And on the Chargers side of it, Herbert kind of gave you a floor game, which is still decent. Eckler gave
rushing
you a
touchdown at least.
Yeah, Eckler gave you a floor game and limited duty. Well, rushing touchdown, 2 passing touchdowns. Yardage was a little low, but
yeah, well, when you're out for most of that game.
Yeah. So, I mean, floor game, Keenan Allen, best game of wide receivers. I mean, look, you played that game chalk, you're happy.
Yeah.
And Guyton did catch a touchdown. But
again.
Yeah. All right, cool. Now
we're ready.
Patriots Colts. The only game remaining on on Saturday. We lost our middle of the day game. Yeah.
Yes. This is we have the Patriots at the Colts here. Colts are 2.5-point favorites at home. 44.5 is the game total from the COVID watch, I believe. I don't think either team has either anybody or it's very, very minimal. So no real risk for problems there. It's the wrong game. I don't want that one. In terms of what we've seen historically, Patriots are riding a 8-game cover streak right now against the spread that, filters in favorites and underdogs. Colts have been on a every other tear since the end of October here. So, do with that information as you will. It's hard to bet against the Patriots right now. They've covered every game that they've won on this 8-game winning streak. They're the best team in football. At least right now they are. I'm going to ride them. At this point, when you see a streak like this, you just keep going. You take New England and the points. And I take the over. I think this game's going to be close enough, and that's also dictated by the spread itself, that this game could easily be pushed. We've seen Mac Jones kind of, I won't say unleashed by any means, but the offense is being opened up to him more. Even without Damian Harris, his running game is fine. It's not built around one player.
No.
So Patriots 2.5 plus 2.5 and the over 44.5.
All right. Fantasy, what you need to know. Damian Harris is not playing. We mentioned that already. That's a Ramondre Stevenson start. Again, Patriots running game is a big part of their offense, and it is not built around one person. That is your biggest note on that side of it. Colts side of it. The suddenly kind of relevant again, Jack Doyle is participating in practice. So there's that.
There's that.
It's a tough matchup for the Colts. Jonathan Taylor obviously will get his. The Patriots. Christian Barmore is questionable with a knee injury. So that's big run stuffing DT for them. So, but Jonathan Taylor obviously ridden him this long. Patriots are a tougher run defense. I would expect more floor than blow up in this game from JT, but you don't need to give JT a lot of analysis. Michael Pittman's the one I would shy away from if you have a better option with JC Jackson in this game. That is a top-tier corner on a top-tier coverage on a team that doesn't give a lot of passing volume out. Pittman has kind of been more wide receiver 2 than high upside wide receiver 1. He's been very solid all season. This is a game where that solid could turn into something that's a little bit disappointing,
Yeah.
Given the matchup on that. The other side of this, for the Patriots, Kendrick Bourne has kind of been a boom type guy. That absolutely can happen against the Colts. I see this is more game script neutral for the Patriots, though, and we have seen them go to Jacoby Myers all season as well. The basic takeaway here on the Patriots side of this is that I wouldn't get too cute with Bourne unless you're in a really, really bad situation because of some of these COVID questionables and stuff. And on the Jacoby Myers side, I mean, that's a solid floor plug-in if you need it. I mean, there's floor to be had when there's more than 3 pass attempts.
Well, I mean, Bourne, target-wise, snap share-wise, routes run. I mean, it's tough. I wouldn't target any Patriot receiver. If the game's going their way, it's very much run-focused. Mac Jones, picks and takes what he wants. But in a world where COVID is running rampant through the NFL,
you might need one of them.
You may not have a choice. So.
Right. And if you need one of them, it's Myers for floor and Bourne for upside. And I don't love either of them this week, but those are 2 viable guys. The problem is they play tonight. And I don't know that I am plugging any of them in tonight. I am going to take my chances on Sunday games or replacements from the later games if I have to, depending on what the injuries are. So,
yes.
Again, we'll cover that as we get there. Let's move on to the next game.
All right, Jets. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Panthers
wait,
at the Bills. Hold on.
I forgot to look at COVID stuff. Zaire Franklin for the Colts, linebacker. I forgot to check the COVID list because we haven't been doing this.
Okay.
J.J. Taylor, Dalton Keene for the Patriots. So nobody relevant. Nobody
relevant.
Now go.
All right. Panthers at the Bills. Bills are 12.5-point favorites. Over/under set at a 44 even. Both teams have struggled to kind of cover in recent times. Bills has just been a team that's been very up and down. We don't, we don't like to tell people to throw out a lot of games, but we could still throw out the game against the Patriots. Looked good. I thought they looked pretty good against the Bucs this past week. It's just, I think the offense, I think Allen and his offense has been figured out. And I think it's them trying to navigate through the defenses that have the personnel that can actually slow down this offense. Panthers have a good defense. I don't know if they have the right amount of, players in place to fully stop this Bills offense. But I think it's good enough to cover this 12.5 points that's being given to them, even with Buffalo at home. And riding this, 2-game losing streak, 1-3 in their past 4, and 2-4 in their past 6. So I'm still taking the Panthers at plus 12.5. That's a lot of points to give to a team that's got a good enough defense, and hopefully the offense that can kind of neutralize this team here. I'll take the under at 44 as well.
Yeah, it's not that the offense can't score. All right. Perspectives on this one. Panthers obviously no Christian McCaffrey. He's back on IR. You have DJ Moore, limited with a hamstring injury. Keep an eye on that. He will likely play. I haven't seen a lot of concern around that. On the Bills side of things, some defensive injuries. Star Lutile. Lutile, I can't. No disrespect intended. I just can't say it.
Yep.
He's questionable with the toe injury, limited. So Jerry Hughes had also been banged up. So some people banged up on the front there. You got Cole Beasley, who's not participating in practice. Don't know what for. Just probably Veterans Maintenance Day. No injury listed. Yep. And Emmanuel Sanders is doubtful, i.e., not playing. So Emmanuel Sanders. That's going to open up the door for Gabe Davis a little bit more to actually get on the field. They play a similar role, and Emmanuel Sanders is kind of the ice water on Gabriel Davis for a lot of those downfield targets and a lot of that downfield work. It's the Panthers. I don't know that they end up in a negative game script here. By negative game script, I mean having to pass a bunch. But Davis has touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. Target volume is a little spotty. Again, it's one of those guys that if you have to plug somebody in a pinch, it's a name to know. And this is a Sunday game, Sunday afternoon game. So, now you're getting more into the I may need to play this guy in a pinch, especially if you go another day without some of these names being cleared.
Yeah.
Davis is a very, very good name to know, especially with no Emmanuel Sanders. For the Bills, we know that running the football hasn't necessarily been their forte, shall we say. Even against the Patriots, in the freaking in the Patriots in the freaking Blizzard game, wasn't necessarily their strong suit. Still not giving anybody a ton of rushing attempts, not giving anybody a ton of target volume. It was Singletary last week, not consistent target volume anyway. It was Singletary last week. I don't know how you can lean into this run game at all, given some of the other people that have popped up. I know that I personally don't want to do it. Matt Breida is the most efficient runner, but it's not pretty. On the Panthers side of the football, running game has been death, really, since Cam took back over and, intermittently took back over. You got two quarterbacks that can run, though, on P.J. Walker and Cam Newton, that they seem to be going back and forth between at the moment. Normally that creates a bad situation for wide receivers, but it really hasn't. DJ Moore, 10 targets each of the last 2 weeks. I'm going to trust that volume. And Robbie Anderson came on last week just in time for the fantasy playoffs, as he's kind of known to do. So
it's like it's right on cue.
It's right on cue. He does this all the time.
He does it. I feel like every year he's been in the NFL.
Right.
It's calling card.
It's fantasy playoff times. Robbie Anderson going to turn it up. Really, it's been better since Cam got back, though. And McCaffrey went down. You saw 12 targets to him last week in a relatively tightly contested game. They were down for a good bit of it, but relatively tightly contested division game. 12 targets went Robbie Anderson's way. Again, it's a name to know. It's not somebody I'm advocating that you start, because that was an anomaly, really, over the last 6 weeks. But again, if that's going to be a trend, there are going to be what I would anticipate on a negative game script most of the time. You could definitely see some volume working his way. So, again, it's a name to know if you're super concerned about these wide receivers on the COVID list. That's all I got. I don't trust the Panthers running game either, honestly. A lot of people were on Amir Abdullah, but he has not done much. And
I don't trust really anything with the Panthers. They have two mobile quarterbacks that can't protect the football.
Nope. The only thing I trust is the fact that DJ Moore's gotten 10 targets each of the last 2 weeks while that clusterfuck is going on. So
yeah. If this spread was anything less than 10 points, I'd be more on Buffalo. All right. Jets at the Dolphins. Dolphins 9.5-point favorites at home. 41 even is the over/under here. Miami's riding a hot streak against the spread. They've covered 5 in a row. Game 6 in this span was a push. This team has kind of found its leg here during this winning streak that they're on. Tua's playing very good. And the loss of Waddle, I think, is going to hurt the receiving game. It's going to hurt the trust a lot more. It's going to hurt the overall, floor of the passing attack. They do have viable options outside of just Waddle. Devonta Parker, Mike Gesicki. They're finding production from Matt Collins and Isaiah Ford. So I'm still trusting this Miami team. The Jets are a massively dysfunctional at this point, and you can't place all the blame on Zach Wilson and for his trouble so far this year. But the Jets team is in disarray. I'll take the Dolphins even at 9.5. This has been their highest, I think, favored game all year. And I think they should be able to pull this out against the Jets. Maybe only concern you guys, maybe a backdoor cover towards the end of the game here. So I'll take Miami. I'll stay away from the over under. But if anything, I'll lean under at 41. As the Dolphins defense has been playing better as well. Points they've given up 9, 10. They gave up 17 against the Jets just a few weeks ago. 10 points to Baltimore, 9 to Houston. So their defense plays well against bad offenses, and we know that the Jets have a bad offense. So that's it.
All right. You mentioned Waddle. Waddle is on the COVID list. He was added 2 days ago. Don't know if he's going to clear in time or not. That's a major concern, obviously. He's been their leading target getter, their most viable wide receiver. You have an issue there. For the Jets, there's nobody really relevant being impacted by COVID. You have a banged-up offensive line from an injury perspective on that front, just to set this up. You're also missing Adam Shaheen potentially in the Dolphins passing game. So, as we break into this, Jalen Waddle's the first the first real fantasy-relevant wide receiver we'll get to. That is a boost to Myles Gaskin, who they will use in the receiving game, especially around the line of scrimmage, which is a lot of how Waddle gets used. But also a boost to Devontae Parker in the intermediate game, who we saw the breakout last year from Parker, and then this year we've seen Waddle and injuries kind of throw water back on that to make you think, well, maybe last year was a Devontae Parker anomaly. But he's had solid weeks the last 2 weeks. If Waddle doesn't go, last 3 weeks really. If Waddle doesn't, last 3 games he's played. He hasn't been on the field. If Waddle doesn't go, Devontae Parker is going to be the wide receiver 1 there. He's likely been dropped. He's likely on waivers. He's somebody that I would absolutely consider plugging in. Now, the flip side of that, it's bad game script. This is a huge lot of positive arrows pointing to Myles Gaskin in this one, from game script to the potential lack of Jalen Waddle to Phillip Lindsay being on the COVID list right now as well. A lot of positives right now that point at Myles Gaskin. Outside of Gaskin, Parker, and then Gesicki, who's been solid all season, and he's a tight end. So, tight ends are tight ends, right? But Gesicki has been rather quietly more involved than a lot of tight ends. He's putting together a very solid year. Touchdowns haven't necessarily been there, but the yardage and the volume absolutely is. So you're good on that. On the Jets side of the football, is Elijah Moore still dealing with a quad injury?
He's on IR.
He's on
IR.
Done for the That's year. What it was.
He's done for the year.
All right, you got Elijah Moore on IR. That happened last week. I'm just an idiot. You'll have that. Checking target volume last week against the Saints, but I don't believe that there was anything here that I'm going to love very much. Michael Carter does make his return for the Jets. That is a boost. That is a good thing. Your target volume, Braxton Berrios saw 10 targets, but just 52 yards last week, 6 receptions. It's 11 PPR points. Again, he's a floor guy, especially in what I'd assume is a negative game script. He looks to be the guy that kind of started getting work with Moore going down. You also have no Corey Davis, who's on season-ending IR. You did see a lot of target volume go Keelan Cole's way as well. Cole likely to draw tougher matchups playing outside versus Berrios, who plays primarily out of the slot. So Braxton Berrios is probably your guy here if you need a floor game. But Michael Carter back. I'd expect Michael Carter is probably going to be the focal point of their offense.
I'll possibly. I mean, it's still going to be. I mean, depends how how healthy he is. Again, this is a team that has nothing to play for. I don't know why there's no need to bring back Michael Carter. Shut him down for the year if he's supposed to be a future asset to your team.
Unless he is fully healthy and they gave him the extra couple weeks or whatever already, but you don't know.
I mean, it does bode well. I mean, Ty Johnson, 7 targets this past week. That does bode well, even for a guy like Michael Carter who does get heavily involved in the passing game. There 3 other receivers outside of Braxton Berrios get 6 targets. So Zach Wilson, obviously known to spread the football around. They're trying to find some of the Elijah Moore replacement in these truly replacement level wide receivers here.
I also based that Braxton Berrios take just on, the fact that we have seen Braxton Berrios whenever there's an injury.
He's never going to get double teamed. The fact that, Jamison Crowder should be the guy that's going to see any significance. I mean, how do you, game plan to this offense with nothing to be excited about? Like you can't. There's no blanket covering. They're not just going to leave guys in the box because it's not like they have a running back that's, hyper great. But gross. Sorry, Jets fans. We don't need to keep piling on you.
Nope. Just keep her moving.
All right. Cowboys at the Giants. Cowboys are 10.5-point favorites. The 44.5 is the over/under. After Dallas's kind of lull of non-cover streaks against the spread after the massive start they've had, they covered their past 2. Both of them just shy under touchdown favorites against Washington and New Orleans. Teams kind of figuring this shit out while the Giants are kind of in this massive disarray that they know Daniel Jones, Mike Glennon sucks. A healthy Barkley will help, but does it really, to the overall game flow of the actual game? I like Dallas to cover this 10.5. A lot of points. The Giants are better defensively, but Dallas can just run up the score if they need to. Offense is easily lead enough, and this is kind of a perfect game to kind of set everything straight. Yet they're fine offensively as they're going into this playoff stretch and trying to vie for a potential number 1 seed. So I like the Cowboys to cover here. I'll take the under. I don't trust the Giants to score points. I don't
trust the Giants to score points either with Mike Glennon in his backup, and Barkley's basically just been an RB2 and not. We've seen kind of the last week or so that some of the explosiveness and pop and abilities coming back, recovering from that ankle injury, but it's been a thing the last couple seasons, and the explosiveness just hasn't necessarily been there for him.
He's going to be a great value next year.
I think
in his contract year. Oh my God, he's going to be. It almost feels like Todd Gurley-esque after his sophomore season into junior season.
Yep, he will be. He's an RB2 this week. You're going to plug him into your lineup, though. You're going to play him. Cowboys a little tough, but he's the best thing they have going on that offense right now. The receiving game is a total dumpster fire. I don't want anything to do with it for the Giants. For the Cowboys, that side of it, trust what you saw last week. So CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper. Pollard may play with the plantar fascia injury. That injury still scares the shit out of me, though. So I'd probably pull off of that if you could.
Yeah.
Because that's pain management, but that is a tough one for a running back. So, that scares the shit out of me, especially if I'm trying to rush him back. And then Dalton Schultz is also scaring the shit out of me. Just 3 targets last week. Again, this is kind of what we're concerned about with a full, healthy complement of wide receivers. I think you're probably going to play. I think you may see Schultz and Gallup kind of alternate who's going to be more relevant at their position, essentially. This is a game where I don't expect a lot of passing volume to happen anyway. I would avoid Schultz if you can. It's tight end, so you might not be able to. And for Michael Gallup, he's another one of those guys hanging out kind of in the wide receiver 2 to 3 range that, if you have to start him. But the way that I expect this game script to kind of go, I don't love it, even though he's seen target volume.
I don't know if it's based off of Lamb still coming back from his injury. Gallup out snapped and outran route. I believe CD Lamb this past week against Washington.
Sure.
I know he out snapped him. Just looking at the snaps off of Pro Football Focus. And that's not a concern. I'm not pinning that as a concern about CD Lamb. CD Lamb is so very much the best player, the best wide receiver in this offense.
10 targets, right? And what do I always say?
It's more of a note to Gallup's on the field. The fact that it'd be more note.
Going to be on the field.
Dallas runs one of the most 3 receiver sets, as they should have the best 3 receivers in football. They have the best receiving core in football. But if Gallup is getting all 2 receiver sets, that still plays note the fact that you should still be playing Gallup. It's not a indictment to Lamb. It's you should still be playing Gallup because he's still running a lot. He's still on a high profiled offense. Still running a lot of routes.
Well, when I get a points per route run league, I'll be more confident in that.
Well,
until we get a
routes runner still important.
Until we get a points per route run league, when you're going, 5 receptions for 36 yards, which was 2 weeks ago, I'm skeptical. When you're doing 5 for 60, you're on the fringe.
He's coming back from injury. Like again, this isn't an indictment to CeeDee Lamb. This is still Michael Gallup still fantasy relevant.
He's been back from injury since week 10. And he's had 1 relevant week.
I'm just saying.
You're a month plus removed from coming back from injury.
I fine. Week 11 played 50% in the snaps in week 10. I'm not counting week 10.
Okay, fine. Week 11, 10 targets, 5 receptions, 44 yards. He's inefficient.
I mean, 10, 8, 9, 9.
Yeah,
target wise, that's still pretty good.
Fine. Productivity is inefficient though. That's my problem.
He's a floor player then. He's gotten 8+ targets since he's been back.
Yay.
Not since he's been back. But hey, you preach floor all the time.
Yay,
just saying.
9-point
8+
floor.
targets on a high-profile offense.
I like my floor to be double digits. But
I mean, 5 catches for 50 yards is double digits.
5 catches for 44 yards is not. You're rounding up. Yes, I'm going to argue over 0.6 of a point.
He's been over 10 points the last 3 weeks.
Hey, damn it. I won a game because of a 2-point defensive adjustment last week. So.
I lost a game off of a 4-point sack correction in an IDP league. And that ended up costing me the playoffs spot. So
it kept my win streak alive in your league.
I know. I saw that.
I was so happy about that. I'm all
you got anything more to talk about on this team?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Unless you want to argue the Cowboys more, because that seems to be something we do every week.
Yeah, we got to find something. I just blame the Cowboys for having this much talent.
For having so much talent on the offensive side.
For having too much talent on the offense that's not, producing more.
By the way, not an indictment on Michael Gallup. I like Michael Gallup quite a bit, and he's a free agent, and there's been Bears rumors already, and I'm really hoping that happens, actually. So,
I would love him paired with Justin Fields. Give me it. The whole thing. And then they still draft a receiver.
Yeah, no.
I don't think Gallup's number 1.
I don't think he's a 1.
Gallup's a really good number 2.
Well, they have a second-round pick, but you draft one upside potential in the second round, and you grab the number 2, and he complements what Darnell Mooney already does well. So,
and this is a really good receiving free agent class.
Welcome to a preview of our free agency episode.
Yeah. All right. Titans at the Steelers. Steelers, a point favorite at home. 43.5 is the game total. I don't like watching Pittsburgh. They just that whole offense, the game. It annoys me, but they're playing a lot better than what we thought they'd be. To start the season, Tennessee still hasn't had AJ Brown. He's not off fire. I think he is done for the year, if I'm not mistaken. Julio did some stuff this past week. I kind of like Pittsburgh here. It's a bit gross. This is basically a pick'em game. If Tennessee was at home, this would be probably upwards minus 4. I still think people are gonna like Tennessee to flat out win this game. I would basically avoid this. I don't trust either team. Pittsburgh's defense is kind of struggling with losing some of their key pieces. Maybe just bet the over
Most
at
of them look to be
43.
back. T.J. Watt's practicing in full. Joe Hayden
Yeah.
practiced in full.
Which is good.
They're getting healthy on defense.
Yeah, which is ultimately what they truly need because Tennessee's offense, Deontay Foreman's been good, not great. Getting Julio back and finding some production from their lesser known receivers has been good. But Tannehill, it's very clear that they need, Henry and Brown back to be where they were. So
yeah, and you're still holding out hope Henry makes a late season return. Like
this should be a
championship week return is the earliest I would expect.
This should still be a playoff team. And just kind of ride it out, and hopefully they can take that division. So I'm still taking Pittsburgh, and I'll lean the over here.
Okay, Steelers' run defense has not been good, to say the least. The pass rush is, we know that. The pass coverage is, the run defense is not. So this is a game that, again, Deonta Foreman floor games, right? They're a thing that can happen, especially with injury. He's a floor. You're going to get a floor player, not a ton of receiving work there, but Deonta Foreman floor games, I'm on board with. You mentioned Julio. Look, I would be very surprised if Hayden doesn't end up on Julio and they try to, put it on Westbrook Akine to, and Marcus Johnson essentially to try to do something.
Yeah.
And, that to me bodes against Julio a little bit. I know we've been burned betting against Julio. If he's a top option, he's a top option and should see top option work. What I don't know is it's a Julio Joe Hayden matchup, right? You're looking at this as a premier fantasy matchup 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's kind of not so much here.
Yeah.
And Hayden gets beat. Yeah, he oftentimes, like every time I watch Pittsburgh, I feel like he gets banged up at some point. So.
He does. So, Julio's fine. I just would not expect, it's one of those expect a floor game type things because he's going to get volume, right? If they're down, if they have to pass, they're going to try to incorporate Julio Jones. It's just a matter of what does that translate to, and I'd expect it to be relatively inefficient. For Pittsburgh, Ben Roethlisberger's shown the ability to throw a football again, a little bit.
Yes, he can do what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, he's shown some ability to do what he's supposed to do. He's shown some pop the last couple weeks. There's a fun stat. 1 touchdown 3 weeks ago, 2 touchdowns 2 weeks ago, 3 touchdowns last week. So he's on pace for 4 touchdowns, if you believe in those trends. But no, in all seriousness, he's had 40 pass attempts in 3 of the last 4 weeks. That's put him up 260, 270 yards. So I mean, it's still short distance. But 2 3 touchdown games and a 2 touchdown game. He's very streamable. He's very playable right now. Roethlisberger is. Tennessee is not. They don't have a good secondary, so you can beat them that way. What that means for Pittsburgh is obviously Deontay Johnson. For Chase Claypool, he'll get his target volume. He'll be involved. I'm okay with Chase. I'm okay with Deontay. Then obviously Najee Harris, you plug it in and forget that he's there. He's been fine. He's
more volume.
Pretty good. He's volume all day volume for Najee Harris.
Yeah. So fun fact about this Tennessee backfield. All 3 running backs, so McNichols, Hilliard, and Foreman, all between 27 and 23 snaps. So that's less than 40% total. Foreman ran the most routes, was obviously the most productive, scored the touchdown to start the game, got off to a great start. 13 carries, 8 carries, 6 carries.
I'll take 13.
Yeah, we're obviously going to take Foreman. It's just with McNichols coming back off IR, it just really muddled up this, and it's who's going to get the big play. And it's more gross.
And there's a world where
else.
both of them are flex value players, right? Because if you believe this game script is going to tilt towards Pittsburgh, then you're going to believe in McNichols coming in and getting that receiving work as the more dynamic receiver. You'll see Foreman early, and that's a scenario where, if the game script tilts the other way towards Tennessee, because we've seen Pittsburgh lay some absolute duds, scenario where you're going to see more Foreman. So there is a scenario where both guys have flex value, and you don't have to stretch that hard to see it between Foreman and McNichols.
Hilliard ran one more route than McNichols, and I know what this it's very minor. I mean, Foreman is the second down in between the tackles grinder.
I think part of that's McNichols coming back from injury.
It's got to be, right? And it was also against Jacksonville, a game that they had well in hand throughout. Obviously, they didn't, give up any points. So in a game that should factor to be easily more balanced, I think McNichols. I wouldn't be surprised if McNichols outsnaps both of them again, and he ends up being talked about as a waiver pickup for the playoff run because he was obviously the primary backup to Derrick Henry when Henry went down and before they picked up AP. So, anyways, Texans at the Jaguars, clearly the game of the week because everyone's rushing out to watch this game. Jacksonville is 4.5-point favorites at home. 39.5 is the over-under. I don't think Jacksonville has been favored at all this year. They have not.
No, Vegas picking up on that energy.
As a betting man, you kind of got to go in Houston's point because this is a massive. I mean, this is a pretty big swing.
Oh,
in terms of perception than what the team has actually done. It's also Houston who also fucking sucks. And Davis Mills is has almost looked like the second best rookie quarterback this year, which is insane to think about. I'm still taking Jacksonville, right? We gotta have fun with this. You're still taking Jacksonville, and I'm taking the over. I'm more excited to bet the over than actually taking Jacksonville against the spread. I like both teams suck against the spread this year.
I'm excited to like the Jags again for a week.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's excited to see what this offense could be. We're all pumped to see James Robinson get 30 carries, and we're going to see game manager Trevor Lawrence here,
which you should be right now, honestly,
throwing 25 passes in a run-heavy offense. But
that's how it should go.
I'm still taking the over, and I'll lean Jacksonville -4.5.
Yeah,
let's go.
I'm with you. Ride the hell out of James Robinson in this one.
Let's have some fun.
Yeah,
and there's no Carlos Hyde.
Yep, no Carlos Hyde. Ride the hell out of James Robinson in this one. You mentioned the way Chenault's being used. I would watch that. Marvin Jones has been up, down all year for Jacksonville. Actually,
yeah. I mean, they've all been. I mean, we don't know what this offense is now going to look like.
Well, the offensive. Yeah, we don't know how much influence Meyer had over what Bevel wanted to do. I'm assuming it was a lot. But yeah, actually, that's crazy to think about that Meyer was asking Daryl fucking Bevel to defend his resume. Like, I know Bevel gets a lot of hate in some circles, but I mean,
he's been successful.
Have you heard of the Seahawks?
He's also had some of the best running backs in the history of the NFL during his tenure as OC throughout his career.
Well, and that makes you wonder, right?
Adrian Peterson. Yeah. I mean,
how much impact did he have on that? Yeah.
Exactly. He gets, Peterson and Marshawn Lynch throughout the majority of his career.
Yep.
And now he goes to Jacksonville and they find a dime in James Robinson, a diamond in the rough with James Robinson. So
if this was week 6, I would be saying start your Jaguars and have some fun. But because I think they are going to have some fun. Marvin Jones out-targeted Laquan Treadwell. The problem here is that they're playing as really kind of similar types of players, but they both had floor the last couple weeks. And, I don't expect the offense to come out and change wholesale, right? It's plus matchup. You mentioned it yourself. Davis Mills has been able to put some points on the scoreboard. Again, both guys as flex plays for me, especially if you've got wide receiver problems, right? Now,
Yeah.
if you have both these guys, I don't know if you're in playoff contention, but you could be.
Yeah, I mean,
You could have
again,
lost an A.J. Brown, right? You could have lost DeAndre Hopkins and been struggling with that one and need somebody to plug in that's going to have some floor. They're both there. Treadwell's been a little more consistent the last couple weeks than Jones has.
this isn't a game we're excited to target, but we're more excited at the fact that we get to see post Urban Meyer in Jacksonville.
Right.
And what is a clusterfuck of a week.
I'm totally okay with those guys. O'Shaughnessy, who's getting Dan Arnold target volume, and what they're gonna do here. It's gonna be more clear after this week. The one thing I am completely 100% sure about is ride the hell out of James Robinson.
Yeah, super chalk. It'll be a super chalk week for James.
Houston
Robinson.
will also have a football team on the field.
It will.
Brandon
And
Cooks.
Yeah.
That's it. It's the only thing you care
That's
about
it.
is Brandon Cooks.
Perfect.
And it's just kind of okay.
All right, let's move on to a game that most people don't care about either. The Cardinals at the Lions. Cardinals are 12.5-point favorites on the road. 47.5 is the over-under. We get to see what the Cardinals again look like without DeAndre Hopkins, who's now done for the year. Murray is continuing to be healthy. As we've started to see him, kind of bounce back to what he was beginning of the season when he was in its MVP dominant ways. Betting what?
Sorry, I got to go back because I forgot to look at COVID. One other thing for that matchup with James Robinson.
Yeah.
Kirksey and Grugier Hill for the Texans are both on the COVID list right now. So 2 of their starting linebackers are right now not cleared to play.
More reason to go James Robinson chalk.
Sorry, continue.
All right. Detroit, oddly enough, great against the spread this year. They're 8-5 record overall, 6-4 in their past 10 games. And they started this past week against the Broncos. They've covered every game dating back to the beginning of November. And it's a team that generally plays up to their competition. They don't win these games, but they definitely play up to the competition. So I kind of like Detroit to cover at home. This is a game that it feels like if the Cardinals get up, 2-3 touchdowns, they kind of start to see some more rested, players. This is a game that should easily win, especially if they get up early. Detroit in the backdoor cover feels so in play here. So I'll take Detroit at plus 12.5, and I'll take the over. Even without Swift, this offense can still find production. Hopefully Josh Reynolds plays, but they've gotten production off of, their rookie receiver in St. Brown.
Yeah.
And being able to find stuff in Khalif Raymond and Hawkinson. Cardinals could play a little more relaxed defense in the second half when they're up multiple touchdowns. So I like Detroit to cover here.
Yeah, I like Detroit to cover. The 2 names you need to know from Detroit right now, Craig Reynolds, if Jamal Williams doesn't get cleared, had a very, very efficient day. I think he led the team in carries, had 2 receptions, which might have also led the team from a running back perspective anyway. I think Godwin, I'm not even going to try. Just 8 attempts, 25 yards. Craig Reynolds, 11 for 83, 2 receptions for 16 yards in that game. You need a running back plug-in.
Keep an eye out on Jamal Williams, too.
Yeah, but yes, also watch for Jamal Williams here. Cardinals defense better than a lot of people realize as well. So, it's a cautionary tale, but he's right there in flex consideration with guys like Devonta Freeman, for example. So you can't back off of that. Amon-Ra St. Brown's the one I'm a little bit more excited about. It's a game script that should lean his way, as you just mentioned. 12 targets each of the last 2 weeks. While Reynolds has been getting the deep work, Reynolds hasn't been getting the volume that St. Brown has been. So we're really starting to see St. Brown come on is what I kind of liked him for coming out of college. Slow start to the season, but he's had some flash games here and there, and he's strung together a couple of them now. So I expect that trend to continue as they've kind of figured out how to use him, how to get him involved, and how to make him a weapon. I would absolutely expect that to continue forward for him. On the other side of the football, the Cardinals, the biggest boon here is James Conner. From a game script perspective, from a performance perspective, it's been a lot of James Conner. You are gonna have no Nuke Hopkins. We saw AJ Green run away with that target volume last week. Look, if they're gonna target AJ Green in the wide receiver 1 role, he's gonna win in this game. So,
oh yeah, from what we saw on Monday night, this is Green may be that true Hopkins replacement.
yeah, and you know what? That's why you bring in a guy like that, though, too.
Yeah.
Does he have a little bit left in the tank? Well, yeah, he apparently has a little bit left in the tank. He dealt with injuries a ton at the end of his run in Cincinnati, but 10 for 102 is a little bit of a turn back the clock performance. And while Christian Kirk saw his normal 6 to 8 targets, guess what? Decent game. Nuke re-aggravated the hamstring. That's going to free up 13 targets there. They're not going to have to throw nearly as much as they did in a shootout with the Rams, but I'm okay with Kirk and Green both in this one. And Zach Ertz has floor. No Hawkinson.
He does.
No Hawkinson for the Lions either. He's officially out. So
is he officially out too?
That's another.
And maybe we just lean off of the Lions cover. I don't know. I'm still taking them.
That's
all right.
Another boost there to St. Brown.
Yeah. Atlanta at the 49ers. 49ers are 9.5-point favorites at home. 46 even is the game total here. We talked about early on in the show, there's no Elijah Mitchell for the 49ers, so their running backfield is kind of in a cluster here, but the offense is still producing fairly well. Atlanta is in this kind of fake was looked like a rebuild that turned into a fake rebuild. They're now in true playoff contention because they keep beating on teams they should definitely beat. This is not a game they should win. This is why the spread is this high. I still like the Niners. I don't know if they'll cover this almost 10-point spread here. It's a bit concerning. This feels like a grind them out. So I'll take Atlanta and the 9.5 points here, and I'll take the over. San Francisco's defense isn't necessarily great. Atlanta, we know, isn't very good. This feels like a game that's going to push over. Just based on potential back and forth scoring, based off, if Atlanta does get up, let's say going into the third and fourth quarter, that bodes well for this game to go over as San Francisco's and become a little more up tempo. So I'll take Atlanta to cover 9.5, and then I'll take the over on the 46.
Yeah. For San Francisco, a little banged up on defense. No Dre Greenlaw. He's officially out, linebacker for them. Jaquiski Tart, questionable, one of their defensive backs. So a little banged up there. Russell Gage has been absolutely fantastic for the Falcons the last couple weeks. So ride Patterson. Niners, Ayuk has been your leading receiver. Deebo Samuel's been involved in a multitude of ways. I don't expect that to change, especially with no Elijah Mitchell this week. So yeah, you're okay with your Niners and who you'd normally run with your Kittle, Deebo, Ayuk. Garoppolo's had some stream value. It's still going to be on the lower end of that stream spectrum. For the Falcons, it's been a lot of Gage and a lot of Patterson, and that's how they've been running their offense. Efficient.
Yeah. Easy. Chalk.
Efficient.
Yeah,
it is chalk. And just a note on Gage real quick, I just want to throw some numbers out there for him because so people know what the hell I'm talking about, basically. For Gage, 8, 7, 12, and 6 the last several weeks. 49, 62, 130, and 64 yardage totals and a touchdown. Yeah, he's got some upside, basically, as far as that wide receiver 3 flex range goes.
I like it. All right. Bengals at the Broncos. Broncos 3-point favorites at home. 44 even is the game total. As both teams are surprisingly in playoff contention, sitting at both 7-6. Denver getting the nod as the home team as your favorite in this. It's hard. I'm just excited about about the Bengals, right? I'm going to bet the Bengals. Both teams they're about even against the spread here. Denver is on this every other week here. Been a little bit better overall during this 6-7 game stretch here. Cincinnati's kind of gone back and forth. And you really do see that based on team play. It's maybe Zach Taylor isn't the true future head coach of this team. I haven't been fully excited about him as their play caller and as their head coach during this 2-year run. So I'm still going to take Cincinnati because I want to bet exciting here. I'm not going to get excited in terms of throwing a bunch of money at it. This isn't a game that I want to truly target. 44 as a game total feels a bit juicy here. Denver typically goes under over this 6-7 game stretch here, while Cincinnati is a team that tends to favor over. I'll lean the over here with all the massive COVID news and the changes we've seen. As we saw at the beginning of last year, it was a truly offensive blow up when teams were battling with trying to figure out how to deal with the COVID stuff. So I'm taking the over here, and I'm leaning the Bengals at +3.
Okay. The Denver Broncos side of this, we're looking at COVID first. On the Broncos side of it, there are no notable COVID cases. The most notable one for the Bengals is Chidobe Awuzie, so that is a starting cornerback for them. So, could be down that. On the other side of this, looking at some of the actual injuries, Riley Reef for the Bengals is banged up. Vernon Hargraves banged up. Reef is out. Hargraves questionable. So some injuries along the line. We saw Burrow struggle with sacks a little bit last week. But the Broncos, like you mentioned, in full rebuild, kind of gutted their pass rush a little bit. On the Broncos side of the football for injuries, Williams and Gordon are both questionable. I'd expect both of them to play. Kareem Jackson with the back injury is questionable, starting safety for them. And that's really Shelby Harris, starting defensive end for them. So, long way to say, Burrow has struggled with sacks with the injuries along the Bengals' offensive line. Saw that last week.
Yeah.
Hasn't really mattered. Denver, good secondary. We know that. They have a good secondary. The pass rush is a little neutered, but that should mean that Higgins and Chase have time to work their way open. We saw Chase kind of rebound a little bit after some midseason slowdown, if you will. A lot of people were is concern the right word? About Jamar Chase through the middle of the season. He's kind of rebounded, 77 and 2 touchdowns last week, 52 the week before. He's bouncing back some. Meanwhile, T. Higgins is on an absolute hitter. You cannot sit T. Higgins right now. Jamar Chase has been the second best wide receiver on that team the last 6 weeks or so, behind T.
They basically flip-flopped to start the year. It's the touchdown regression just switched.
Yeah. And you're okay with both guys. I need to look at this injury report. I think Mixon's off the injury report, but I need to check. I see Stanley Morgan, just because I wanted to get his name in here. No Joe Mixon on the injury report. So
good.
Mixon should play. Again, pretty neutral game script there. As far as the Denver backs, if one doesn't play, right, whoever is playing is going to eat.
Oh, yeah.
If they both play. We saw last week, right? We're right back to where we were.
Yep.
From a split perspective. Saw Melvin Gordon go a couple touchdowns and be hyper efficient. Javonte Williams, look, it bumps them both down to running back twos, but you're still playing both of them.
Yeah, I agree.
So when one of them's gone next year, it'll be better for both of them.
Until they bring Melvin Gordon back, and we're at the same boat. Javonte Williams truthers are
crying.
are crying very, very loud.
He'll eventually overtake him fully. It just especially if they bring him back next year, it'll just it'll be a bit. He's near the back end of his career, so Gordon
Yeah.
is.
We'll see though. All right. What the fuck is going on? Jesus Christ. All right. Green Bay at Baltimore. Green Bay 7-point favorites on the road here. Look, Green Bay dominant against the spread. Baltimore is spiraling, especially if Lamar Jackson can't go. Even with Lamar Jackson going, he's been kind of going through the hero ball problem that Mahomes said early on this year and costing his offense drives, potentially costing his offense some wins here. Either way, it's very difficult to want to bet for Baltimore. So easily taking Green Bay at -7. Surprise is not a bit higher. The game total is where it becomes a little more concerning. If Jackson does play, I'll take the over at 43.5, but I do expect that to get bumped. So probably staying away from the game total and just taking Green Bay and giving the 7 points.
All right. No defensive lineman Kenny Clark, the only COVID notable from this game on the Green Bay side of this. On the injury side of this, Valdez Scantling and Q St. Brown both have been limited. St. Brown for a concussion. He is listed as doubtful, so don't expect him to go. Valdez Scantling appears to be good. Yeah, Billy Turner not practicing, starting lineman for them. Aaron Jones limited. Pay attention to that. He should play. And Rodgers removed from the injury report. So Green Bay banged up. Green Bay still not so banged up where people aren't going to play. They're just trying to get people healthy. Marquise Brown to Hollywood has been limited this week. And I'm not aware of, well, Lamar Jackson, obviously. Game time decision. He is practicing in a limited fashion. So, no, sorry. He's not practicing. Conflicting reports. I thought that I saw earlier that he was practicing. Anyway, Lamar Jackson likely to be a game time decision. This is an afternoon game. The good news is you had multiple games rescheduled to after the fact, so you have more saving grace here from the Lamar Jackson front if you want to ride it out and wait, and maybe got blocked for Tyler Huntley. You could have a guy like Taysom Hill out there, Derek Carr floating around on waivers, whoever the hell starts for the Browns. Good luck on that one.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins, probably not. Justin Fields could be out there. So, you're going to have options if Lamar Jackson doesn't go. In this game, I'd expect this to be low scoring, a little bit black and blue, right? I'd expect this to be more of a try to run the football type of scenario. Freeman's a flex play. We saw Bateman start to produce a bit last week. A lot of that's going to depend on if Hollywood can go or not with the illness. I think he probably can. How are the Ravens going to deploy them? How is Green Bay going to cover them? Look, Huntley got half the game last week, and Bateman had a really good week. You need a plug-in. Even if you start 3 wide receivers even, I'm comfortable with Bateman this week.
I agree.
Are you? Okay, cool.
I am.
And Andrews has obviously been on a tear.
Yeah.
And Huntley has a lot of rushing floor, by the way. So
Lamar Jackson light.
Yeah, if Jackson doesn't go, you still, from a fantasy perspective, are okay with Tyler Huntley. On the Packers side of the football, we saw Allen Lazard have a relatively big game. I don't want any Packers secondary options in this one, though. That includes Lazard and Valdez Scantling. The Ravens are beat up in the secondary. It more so has to do with how I expect the pace of this game to go and how, I expect this to stay kind of towards the lower scoring end of this. I don't expect either team to want to necessarily push pace in this one. I don't expect a ton of points out of this one. And that really makes me bullish a little bit on guys like, Lazard, who, yes, we saw him have a much better week without Randall Cobb, and Valdez Scantling we know is getting downfield targets. If I had to lean one, it's probably Lazard in this type of game. But, I don't necessarily want to, because I don't like the way that I think this game script's going to play out to have a ton of wide receiver points available.
Yeah. Lazard had 10 more snaps. Obviously, he's going to play more of the 2 receiver sets. So If I have to play a secondary option for Green Bay, if I want to, it's going to be Lazard. And as you said, that production's been there. Randall Cobb's fallen off. MVS will have a decent game or two. Lazard 13 targets his past 2 games and touchdowns in 4 of his past 6. So not the perfect game script, but at least there's some production there. All right. New Orleans at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay 11.5-point favorites. 45.5 is the game total. Tampa Bay is on a 4-game cover streak. Saints are kind of just middling here, especially since the loss of Winston and the constant back and forth with Simeon and Hill here. So I'm still taking Tampa Bay at home. This is kind of, this should be an easy win game. Maybe there's a backdoor cover. I just don't trust the Saints enough. I'll take Tampa Bay at home, 11.5, and then game total. I'll probably stay away here. I'm just not too keen on the Saints offense as a whole. Getting Kamara back is great, but it still doesn't, solve the fact that this is a very slow pace offense. And New Orleans will try to slow the game down, try to, eat away the clock when they have the football early on. It's still Tampa Bay, still Tom Brady. So 11.5 cover for the Bucks, and I'll lean the under if I want to bet the game total.
No COVID in anyone, like no player from either team.
Well, both these teams, thankfully, are 100% vaccinated and probably take this more seriously than others.
Yeah, nobody on the COVID list from either team. Ryan Ramczyk for the Saints and Teron Armstead. They're both banged up. They're both listed as out, so they're down their 2 starting tackles again. Probably not good for Taysom Hill. The other side of this, look at that. Tom Brady's questionable. He's been questionable his entire career. Jordan Whitehead questionable starting safety. Jamel Dean, one of their depth cornerbacks, is out with an injury. We know how banged up they've kind of been in the secondary. Leonard Fournette, technically questionable with an ankle. I'd expect him to go. Some rest days all across. Richard Sherman, doubtful. Achilles injury. Antoine Winfield, questionable. So you've got injuries on the Tampa Bay secondary. That's been the case all year. Saints don't have a receiver that I trust with anything. It's all Kamara and Taysom Hill, and that's that. Bucks are good against the run too, but you're not sitting Kamara. On the flip side of this, New Orleans defense has been relatively decent. That's why the Saints are 6-7. It's not because the offense is letting anybody up. The Bucks offense is a way of lighting people up.
Yeah.
So that is what it is. Again, another game that I just kind of, because of the Saints on the other side, expect the pace to kind of try to slow down a little bit. Makes me like Leonard Fournette a lot in this one. I fully expect that he plays. I don't think he's going to miss with that ankle injury. So it makes me like Fournette in this one. Evans and Godwin. Yeah, you're okay with both of them.
Chalk.
Yeah, it's chalk. It's chalk is what it is. This whole game is just freaking chalk. I was actually pulling up the last time these two teams played. 4 for 48 and a touchdown for Mike Evans. Chris Godwin, much better game. 8 of 12 for 140 and 1. So
they're still playing both.
Take that for what you will. You're still playing both.
Yeah. Gronk are playing. Yeah, chalk. All right. 4 games left.
And 2 of these are rescheduled clusterfucks.
Yeah, let's try to breeze through these as quickly as we can here.
Yep.
Raiders at the Browns. Browns are 2.5-point favorites at home. 41.5 is the over-under. Both teams suck against the spread. Cleveland hasn't covered a game since the beginning of November. And the Raiders, well, they're the Raiders. Both teams are allergic to scoring points. Both teams have recently been somewhat allergic to preventing points. Thankfully, Cleveland's been a bit better, but they've played against kind of bad offenses. So, yeah. Also, Cleveland battling their massive COVID outbreak, which is why this game has been pushed. So, do with that information as you will. Maybe Baker's back in time. I don't think Keenum, maybe even Keenum might be. I don't know if he's vaccinated or not, so I don't know if he's going to be available.
If not, it's Nick Mullins.
Yeah, Nick Mullins is the third string, so
We've seen him have some success though too.
Yeah,
he said
in super flex leagues,
It's
especially
not a-
deep ones, he should be rostered.
it's not a totally unknown. Nick Mullins isn't, so
True, he did have some success in San Francisco. And from a betting standpoint, I'm staying away from these games because these lines are going to massively change. You don't know where the directions are going to go. If anything, just take the over, because in games like this, it's a lot harder for the defense to be able to, to piece together a good game than it is for the offense. The chemistry is massively important for the defense when you have this many changes on it. It definitely affects the product that's put out there. So if anything, just take the over. I'm staying away from the spread in every one of these games, minus maybe the Vikings and Bears, because that one hasn't been moved.
Yeah, this one's tough. So I'm going to run through the Browns COVID players essentially, just so you get an idea of why we're not going to be able to give you much of a preview here. Case Keenum, Kareem Hunt, Jacob Phillips, Mac Wilson, Tony Fields, AJ Green, Grant Delpit, Jadeveon Clowney, Ronnie Harrison, Baker Mayfield, Troy Hill, John Johnson III, Malik McDowell, Ifedi
Odenigbo?
Yeah, Odenigbo.
Odenigbo.
Austin Hooper, Jarvis Landry, Tack McKinley, Wyatt Teller, Jedrick Wills, Jimmy Gillen. So what you have there, a couple of, your top two quarterbacks, your running back two, Mac Wilson at least, plus Phillips. So some of your linebacker core, most of your starting secondary, your best pass, one of your top two pass rushers, top wide receiver. Yeah, they're banged up in a lot of different areas. Not banged up, I mean they're COVIDed up in a lot of different areas. So it's impossible really to give an accurate preview on this game at this point. In addition to that, the Raiders actually have no COVID cases, but you've got Trayvon Mullen not practicing with toe injury. He's actually listed as out. You've got, let's see, anybody else? Denzel Perriman is out. So you do have some known things that are going on with the Raiders there that, don't necessarily play well. Darren Waller out officially, so things to know. And in addition to what you just had on the Browns side with COVID, from an injury perspective, J.C. Tretter's limited. There's 3/5 of your starting line. Kareem Hunt still dealing with an ankle injury. Ronnie Harrison is limited, estimated, because he's on the COVID list. Myles Garrett not practicing. Anthony Schwartz, concussion. He's listed as out. Troy Hill, not practicing. Joe Bitonio, limited. There's the fourth starting offensive lineman. Greg Newsome, concussion. He's out. There's your second. There's another one of your starting cornerbacks. Malik Jackson, not participating. There's a starting defensive tackle. Your third string tight end is limited. So, between the Browns injury report and the Browns COVID list, they barely have a damn football team right now. It's the Raiders. Nick Chubb is a sure thing. David Njoku, if Austin Hooper doesn't go, should be fine. Is a plug-and-play tight end. Hooper had a good week last week. Other than that, you don't know how that team's going to look. On the Raiders side, right now, you assume everybody on the Browns defense isn't going to clear and get back. No Darren Waller. Give me all of the Hunter Renfrow, please. And all of the Josh Jacobs, please.
And even Derek Carr.
And even Derek Carr's a viable stream because the secondary doesn't exist right now.
And their pass rush is completely
decimated. And the linebacker, at least half of that list needs to clear COVID protocols for this to be any semblance of a game.
Yeah. So you'll see enough updates on Twitter and through other people talking about it. So we don't need to go.
No, we don't.
We're not going to try to go into it more.
Because we can't predict who's going to pass and who's not going to pass.
Yeah. All right. Vikings at the Bears. True Monday Night Football game here. Vikings are 5.5-point favorites on the road. 44.5 is the game total here. Look, you and I are very familiar with these teams. We're very familiar with these games. Minnesota sucks in Soldier Field. It's plain and simple. Regardless if they're favored, regardless if they're not favored, they just struggle to win games here. Rookie quarterback starting, though. The Bears haven't covered a game in 4 weeks. Vikings have been playing better, but again, it's still the Vikings. Take the over. Vikings give up a lot of points at crucial times. Chicago's offense, while up and down times, Justin Fields is playing better. I'm taking Chicago at home. I may even bet money line. So Bears have covered 5.5 and the over 44.5. Yeah.
All right. For the Bears, they've got their own little COVID outbreak going on. Not nearly as bad as Cleveland, but Andy Dalton, Duke Shelley, who's their one of their top 3 cornerbacks, or one of their top 4, sorry. Jesse James, Allen Robinson, who's not been anything this year anyway. Eddie Jackson, starting safety. Larry Borum, one of their starting offensive linemen. Eddie Goldman, their starting nose tackle. Artie Burns, another one of their top 4 cornerbacks. Mario Edwards, one of their rotational pass rushers. Yeah, so Bears not in a great spot from a COVID perspective. The Vikings, it's Madison Westbrook. So little less concerning there. Adam Thielen is not practicing on Saturday, so he is likely not going to play. Kendricks is limited, so a little banged up there. Dalvin Cook is fine. The Bears, this is the other place where you have some issues, although it looks like you might be okay. Jason Peters, another offensive lineman, not practicing. Marquise Goodwin, not practicing. Houston Carson, another, a rotational safety for them, is not practicing. So, some of that's going to be maintenance days. Bears are a banged-up team. But you said it. We know the Vikings' defense has been atrocious again this year. Makes Justin Fields a good stream. Makes Darnell Mooney a good play. Darnell Mooney has by far been the most impressive Bears wide receiver. And even Dave Montgomery, you are fine with in this one. On the Vikings side, it's Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson. And Bears secondary, not been particularly good. Thielen doesn't look like he's going to go. KJ Osborne is one of my favorite upside plugins this week. He's got volume without Thielen there, and we've seen him produce on even minimal volume this year. He'll get targeted. He'll get work. They'll be able to play. This is a game that actually has the potential to score pretty highly, I think. And is almost a target game for your fantasy relevant pieces because of the Bears outbreaks that are going on. They're bad secondary. Vikings don't have a great secondary, not a great defense. This is a targeted game for me.
I don't disagree there. All right. Tuesday game stretch. The Pick Center on ESPN doesn't even have these games up yet because of the unknown of what's going on and because it's a little far out. So I don't have any historical backup. I don't want to look too much further. Washington and Philadelphia. Philadelphia is 7-point favorites at this moment. Right now, 41.5 is the game total. Washington is the reason why this game has been pushed to Tuesday because of their COVID outbreak and the massive implications around the quarterback situation there and the defense that has been, I think, ran through by it. Again, I'm staying away from spreads in these COVID games, and I'm taking the over. This is it's it. When teams lose a lot of their pieces, that just creates a lot of scoring out, a lot of scoring potential for these games. And I'm taking those chances on this.
Also creates the potential for them to be really fucking ugly too, depending.
Yeah, and ugly games, it can go in either direction. So again, if you don't want to bet these games, it's not a bad call either.
Yeah. Sorry, trying to figure out who would be in line to start for Washington right now. Garrett Gilbert.
Yeah, Garrett Gilbert
is the healthy quarterback at the moment. Here's your Washington football team COVID rundown. The only person on the Eagles is Quez Watkins. Your Washington rundown is Wendell Smallwood, who with J.D. McKissick dealing with a concussion actually is somebody you got to talk about. Daniel Wise, don't know who that is. Taylor Heineke, starting quarterback. Cam Curl, don't know who that is. Tyler Larson, believe he's a starting center. Troy Apke, Kyle Allen, second string quarterback. Matt Ioannidis. Cam Sims, who's a rotational wide receiver for them. Derek Forrest, Cornelius Lucas, who's a offensive tackle for them. Samus Reyes, show favorite. Kendall Fuller, starting defensive back. Tim Settle, David Mayo. We'll say this about the football team. Most of their COVID outbreak appears to be amongst depth pieces, not starting talent.
Well, Montez Sweat, who should be back. Jonathan Allen, I believe, is also.
Jonathan Allen's been activated.
Okay, that's right. I saw that.
I'm not showing Sweat on the COVID tracker.
He's been activated too.
So yeah, Washington doesn't have a lot of this high end players. It's not Cleveland. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
You've got Terry McLaurin limited with a concussion. That is something that you have to monitor here. Adam Humphries is the guy, to me, if Terry McLaurin cannot go. If you're targeting Tuesday games, if you're trying to hold out for Terry McLaurin, which is not the worst thing, given this matchup, he is more likely to play with a Tuesday game than he would be with a Sunday game. You have the Seahawks and Rams there later on, but you have some unknowns there as well with the Rams COVID outbreak. Seahawks, we mentioned Swaim and Eskridge, but you have an unknown there with Tyler Lockett. You don't know how this is going to shake out. However, you can gamble here.
Good.
With McLaurin. Yep. You could wait to see if you see anything through Sunday and go see if you can grab a Darnell Mooney, a KJ Osborne, a Demir Bird who got some run without Marquise Goodwin in there in a high-scoring game. Maybe a DPJ's out there if Jarvis Landry can't go. Hunter Renfrow definitely isn't going to be there, but we've seen Brian Edwards throw some flashes out there. You have options if you want to try to wait on Terry McLaurin, but you don't have surefire options, and you are going to have to weigh that with a concussion. I think it's probably more than likely he plays, having not been ruled out yet, especially with the extra 4 days to recover, 3 days to recover. That's big in concussion world. We'll see. Washington football team, hard to put any type of analysis together on this. For the Eagles, Miles Sanders is limited, likely to play. Jordan Howard was limited, going to play for sure. Jalen Hurts, gonna play. Full participant. The Eagles they're fine. You're going to get Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard split. Jalen Hurts is going to be perfectly okay. Goddard, run him out there. Not really a wide receiver option that I love for the Eagles, other than Devonta Smith, who's been solid quietly all season. Yep. For the football team, cannot give you analysis on that one. McLaurin's concussion is the biggest reason. Antonio Gibson, I say I can't give analysis and give analysis. Antonio Gibson, you're fine with. A little bit disappointing last week. It's not a bad game script for him. Should be pretty neutral.
Yeah.
Especially if McKissick doesn't play. He's also, not really practicing because of a concussion. Last one.
Seahawks at the Rams. Rams are 5.5-point favorites at home. 45.5 is the game total. Seattle's dealing with two decently important COVID players right now. Hopefully, they both can be activated. The Rams are the biggest reason why this is there, and arguably as important as the Browns in terms of key pieces on both sides of the ball, and then key depth pieces as well. So, again, if you want to bet this game, I'm still taking overs here. I'm staying away from spreads because a lot of this is going to change if these players get activated in time.
Yeah, and for the Rams, you mentioned some key players. There are some key players here. Tyler Higbee, starting tight end. Jameel Dimby, don't know who that is. Grant Haley, don't know who that is. Depth cornerback. Justin Lawler, Von Miller. He hasn't had a huge impact since coming over, but that is still one of their rotational pass rush pieces. Tremaine Antrim, Antoine Brooks, another defensive back, right? Bobby Evans, starting guard. Jake Gervasi, couple of linebackers. Troy Reeder being the biggest name there, who's their starting middle linebacker. Johnny Munt, Jared Pickney, and Bryson Hopkins all here. So Kendall Blanton right now is really the only healthy tight end.
Jesus.
Odell Beckham, who tweeted out that he had a negative test, so he should likely be good. Jordan Fuller, who is, one of their, I believe he's one of their top 3 defensive backs. Jalen Ramsey still not cleared. Starting tackle Rob Havenstein. Starting running back Darrell Henderson. So
Rough.
Lot of injuries there. Your big position groups that are banged up with that are the tight end position, and your defensive back, and then some key pieces on the offensive line for the Rams. The name you didn't hear there is Cooper Kupp. He has been protected at all costs, as he should be. So, Sony Michel's been getting a lot of run this week and may have usurped Darrell Henderson anyway. So, don't necessarily love that. Beckham should be healthy, it looks like, if he's already got a negative test. So, Beckham, Kupp, Stafford, Sony Michel, all high level of confidence on those for me.
Yep.
I can actually analyze the Rams because of the pieces they're missing. For the Seahawks, missing Troy Reader's big. We already talked about Rashad Penny being in a position to have a very, very good game given this defense. The biggest question mark for Seattle right now is Tyler Lockett. It's the exact same thing as Terry McLaurin. Those are fantasy pieces that you play if they're healthy that you're going to have to gamble on. Well, I don't have anything else to say. I mean,
that's
pretty much it.
Yeah.
You're going to have to – it's Penny, Metcalf, especially if there's no Lockett. But, Lockett and McLaurin getting moved to Tuesday night, those are going to be your biggest gambles for different reasons. One with a concussion, one with COVID. Those are your biggest gambles that you have to decide. Do I have a clue? For example, I'm going to be deciding of, do I gamble with Tyler Lockett or do I plug in Bateman ahead of time? Decision I'm going to have to make, right? So
Yeah. Not good.
Not good. All right. That's the show. Thank you for having breakfast with us, even though neither of us actually ate breakfast.
Yes, not yet.
Not yet. We will catch you all sometime next week.
See ya.
Bye.